the link between obesity and stress. So they will call the people that are qualified to address obesity and stress in children. Yes. So a conference must be themed. So whenever you do conference, there must be a purpose. But that purpose, it has got a subject that needs to be addressed. It might not be whatever. It depends with you as the leader, what is needed at that particular season. But there shouldn't be a conference for the sake of saying, hey, we need revival, RDN conference. If we need revival, we call revival. If we need conference, we'll call a conference. Number 2, we'll say, what is the subject that needs to be addressed? Number 3, we'll say, who are the people graced and knowledgeable to address that particular thing? What are the objectives? That is why if you invite a person who is matured in the things of the Lord, he will ask you, what objectives do you want to meet? Because they understand a conference will not just be like where we come and dance. Yes.
Then now you do a conference, and then you know that you need maybe Apostle Lamola with a certain grace to come and revive the believers and strengthen them.
So the correct
you
word,
do that conference.
the correct word for that meeting is a revival.
Okay.
Yes, you will do revival because you want Apostle Lamola to come and strengthen the people, but the correct naming of that thing is called a revival. So in a conference, we will have very specific, clear objectives. For example, we will say, our February conference is called Believers Convention. What are the objectives of Believers Objection? We want speakers that will come and move the church from relating to the theory of the scripture to the practicality of the scripture. We want a person who can come and interpret the concept, what is to believe God. We want, things like that, and we address those kind of things. So number of ministry-based conference, for example, one for women, one for men, one for youth, one for children's church, and one for couples. So when you say the church is now becoming healthy, in one single year, we will not just have the church conferences, but women will be empowered as women in that church. Men will be empowered as men in that church. Youth will be empowered as youth in that church. Couples will be empowered as couples in that church. So different gender-based or ministry in the church, then contributing to building a very healthy and a growing church. Because if youth are fireful in that context, they are built, they will contribute into the growing of the church. If children's church is built, it will pour into youth that is impactful. If women are built, they will pour into the church. If men are built, they will pour into the church. Then we have got a broad general church. Number 3, number of outreach program. Every church that is serious about growing should at least have 6 outreach programs. You can call them crusade, you can call them outreaches, but a minimum should be 6. We are planning to do maybe 40 this year. We need to do 40, but a minimum church must do 6. Like a church that want to be ready about growing, they must at least plan 6 outreach programs in a year. And I believe if we failed this year ourselves, we will have done 40 outreach programs. Outreach programs, I'm not talking about soup kitchens and all those things. I'm talking about the purpose of soul winning. So it must be 6 at least in a church. And one of the things that we need to plan very thoroughly is how we run the services. It is possible to find we are running one service times 3. You go to church on a Tuesday, they run the same thing that they run on Thursday. They run it the same as they run it on Sunday. There should be distinctions if we want to grow. There should be distinction of, okay, if you say we are coming, we are meeting on Wednesday, what is the reason we are meeting on Wednesday? It should be either for teaching and Bible study. Then if you say we are meeting on Thursday, it can be another teaching and Bible study. It should be prayer and fasting maybe. Then you say we are meeting again maybe Saturday. It should be leadership training. And you say we are meeting again on Sunday. It should be a combined celebration service. So we need to be careful not to duplicate one service 3 times a week. So each service must be unique and well-defined to why do we have that service. So if we have got prayer service, let it be prayer service. If we have got teaching service, let it be a teaching service. If we've got leadership or church workers, let it be. So we shouldn't come on Tuesday, do the same thing we're going to do on Wednesday, do the same thing we're going to do on Friday. Then we're losing impact. So, and humanitarian programs, taking care of the poor and giving to the needy should also be intentionally planned and programmed. So I said if we want to grow the church, we must do projection. Projection means documenting your membership to know with conciseness and preciseness how many people does the church have today. So it's based on your current membership. You can challenge yourself with a minimum of 10% in a year. If you've got 100, you can say, I'll be happy when we close with 110. But you can't do projection if you don't know where you are. And you can't know where you are counting only on attendance, not on a documented membership. Because there are people that attend your church, but they are not your members. Maybe they visited for 3 weeks in your area and they're attending the church, but they are not your members. So therefore, if you're going to talk projection, you are not talking about visitors without commitment. You are talking about the people that it clearly indicated that they are members. And then you can build up. So strategies to reach to the projected numbers per region, as to say, in my area, what will work better? Or what works in a shack zoned area will not work in a city-based area, will not work in a location-based area, and will not work in a village-based area. So then we need to come to see it very clear. In a village, there is no problem to do house to house. In a suburb, they call police when you do house to house. You knock the first door, second door. When you get to the third, the police are already in front of you. You see, so you need to, don't wear work club. You need to ask yourself, where am I and what works where I am? And then apply the strategy that works in there. Sometimes it's not universal. Somebody can win in Palabora with door to door. But then you move into another place, Babulela the pitbull, when you knock and say door to door. So you need to be very strategic and understand where you are and build up a very healthy projection. I'm telling you, you cannot grow to where you don't know you're going. You ought to have a projection to say, as a church, we want to win extra 50 people when we close this year. The question is, what are we going to do in that year to win those people in that particular year? And that thing should be what we did not do. Because if we can do what we did in 2024, in 2025, we will have the growth we had in 2024. So when we go into 2025, we must begin to be thinking of doing different things. What do you think are the things that delay ministry growth? Besides anything that we've spoken about, just in your general thinking. Yes, ma'am.
Proper structure
Proper structure.
in the church.
Yeah, simplify it.
like strong leadership as to how to place people according to their graces and giftings. If, let's say, just a random person comes to a church with a need, that person must be able to know, with this kind of a need, I'm going to approach this office. But if there are no structures like that, it's like driving a ship without, yes.
Yes. Somebody else? What do you think? Mom, from this side, you can give it.
I think it's consistency, because most of the times you plan things, but you don't be consistent on them. How will people follow what you have implemented if you are not consistent? That won't generate growth in the church.
You can't really make impact if you don't have consistency. We ought to be very, very consistent, not only in close to the church, but sometimes, let's say you call a training meeting and only 3 people come. Will you continue with the meeting? You get discouraged and you cancel the meeting. That's inconsistency. It means you must continue with the purpose of the meeting, even if there are 3 people. Because you said, you made a commitment to say you're going to do that particular meeting. Consistency is very key. Structurization is very key. The flow chart. Okay, if I get into this church, this is the process that I need to move from being a visitor to becoming a pastor. Can that be mapped out and be well written out? If that can be well mapped out and be written, then we will move too far. Doesn't want to move now. So the first thing is the pastor as a factor, so the pastor can delay church growth. I'm just going to run very quick so that I can finish. The pastor is the first person to be blamed if the church does not grow, even if it is the people that are not doing the work. Yeah, you blame the pastor. If there is no attendance, don't blame the rain, blame the pastor. Because the pastor didn't teach the people to walk through the rain to come to church. If there's no commitment, if finance is not going well, leave the treasury people, blame the pastor. Everything in the church stops with the pastor. The pastor must be blamed and must be praised if the church grows. Must be thanked if the church grows. Number one, if the pastor does not live a holy life, that becomes a big problem. You see, people might not know your private sins, but what did Paul say in 1 Corinthians? He says, I plant, Apollos water, and God gives the growth. So where does growth come from? Ultimately from God. We do the planting, the watering, but growth is released by God. So he knows your secret lifestyle. He knows when you live in sin. He knows when you are unholy. He who grows the church, watching past weight, your church growth, he knows your private sins. Or the church might not know your private sins. The people you lead might not know your private sins. But he who grows the church knows your private sin. Number two, prayerlessness. When the pastor just become a pastor who does not pray, he or she hampers the growth of the church. Number three, not pulling in the same direction with your spouse. We spoke about that one. Number four, the pastor that is not exposed is a danger to the growth of the vision they are leading. You know why it's the danger if they are not exposed? Because you can never desire to have what you don't know. If you don't know in a church we can have lights, you will never pray and dream and ask God for lightings because you don't know. there is anything called lighting. And what is the purpose of lighting? So the pastor who is not well exposed is the biggest factor in delaying the vision and the growth of the church. So as a pastor, you must challenge yourself to be well exposed, in different things relating to the church, about sound. If you're a pastor, you don't know anything about sound. When the music people come to you and say, we saw a speaker, JBL, and it's 30,000. You say, you people, you don't understand. There is no money in this church. Simply because you are not exposed to the world of sound to know what is quality sound and what is fast track sound. Yeah, you need to know the difference between fast track sound and sound. So there's fast track sound and there's sound. If you are talking fast track, it means you do not yet know sound. And you are not exposed in the world of sound track. Are we together? Fast track is good. It builds of churches. But fast track is not the standard of sound. It's where we start. Moving to the next level. With those microphones, they call them what? Josephs, or at fast track. Dixon. Yeah, you see, with a microphone, if you paid anything less than 3,000, but in fast track, there's no microphone more than 3,000. So fast track is good. It's just there to help, the local community and things like that. But when you are a pastor, what do they do? How many cameras we should have? But if the pastor does not know there need to be cameras, I'm telling you that church will not have to be exposed. Number two, if you are not exposed, people will come that know what you don't know. And then you need to listen to those people and say, okay, let's do this. I didn't know we need to get the red chairs. I was comfortable with the black chairs. Pastor Chese came and said, no, we can't sit on black chairs. We need to sit on the red chairs. And we bought red chairs. It was not my idea. It was him who said we should not sit on black chairs. We should sit on red chairs. And my thinking was, do you understand what you're saying? One red chair equals to 15 black chairs. So with the money to buy one red chair, I will buy 15 black chairs. And you say we must not sit on black chairs. You see, something like that. So lack of exposure as a pastor is a big, big problem. As a pastor, man, you must be able to learn. Whenever you visit anywhere, you see what you don't have in your church. Don't leave that church having not asked. Tell the pastor, take me to the stage. Show me. I don't know that. I don't know that. What is that? What does that do? How do you do this? How do you connect to that? I do that a lot. If I go to a church, I see them having what we don't have here. After that, I will ask the pastor, can you ask your media team to show us? I saw them doing this. I want to know. So that when we get home, we implement the same thing. So we learn by other people. Where you are is not a standard. People have to ask them, how did you get there? Lack of exposure. So lack of personal development. A pastor who doesn't read, a pastor who doesn't grow, a pastor who doesn't attend empowerment session, a pastor that doesn't attend training like that, is a big factor, because you can never really project far beyond what you know. What you know, it will be the ultimate. Number 2, 4, 5, 6, stinginess. If a pastor is stingy, it delays the growth of the church. A stingy pastor cannot move. Because, for example, if you have to buy one red chair, thinking about 15 black, say next, I will stick to the black. And he will start to create a revelation about how the color black in the Bible, God preferred black more than red. And he will begin to demonize red, only to find that he doesn't want to part with man. As a pastor, you must never be stingy at all. So the first thing you need to, and as a pastor, you must also fight at all cost laziness. A lazy pastor follows. People do as they see you. If you are a pastor and you are lazy, the people you are leading will be lazy. But when you are a pastor, you are also involved in what they are doing. If you say to them, it's a season of fasting, and then about fita mo dijong mo khoneng ela mo dijong mo jwang wena o tshwere steak mara o rile ke fasting mara wena o tshwere steak. In the next fasting le bona bo thomana kwale go dijong before ba etla prayer. You see, they looking at you as the pastor. So the pastor set the temperature of the church. Ethics. So the first factor was the pastor as a factor. Factor is leadership team. Leadership team. Under leadership team, we talk about appointing leaders prematurely. Sometimes we want to appear right, and we move quickly into appointing. In the book of Timothy, Paul says, do not ordain leaders quickly. He says, lay not your hands prematurely to the people. If somebody come driving a Porsche car, speaking a right English, being a director, we don't believe that person can be an ordinary member. We believe that person must be squeezed somewhere in leadership, but that person doesn't have a spirit of God. But that person doesn't understand our vision. That person doesn't know where we are going. And now you've got a problem when the vision is we break at 9. Few. Because 1 Samuel chapter number 10, verse number 25 and 26, it says, those that God touched their heart, they supported Saul and they went with Saul. But those whose hearts were not touched, they opposed. So in church you need to understand, don't just blindly appoint leaders. Appoint the leaders that God touched their hearts for the ministry. Because we want to move in speed. And don't appoint people to try to keep people. Don't put people in leadership thinking you're going to keep them if they are leaders. There is no problem in a lawyer being an usher. A lawyer must not go into leadership because he's a lawyer or he's an attorney or an advocate. Chief Justice Mukhweng serves diligently go CFC as an usher. When you get to the door, you meet a gentleman with a black suit, white shirt, a tie, and he greets you as an usher. But is the former Chief Justice. So we must not actually be scared by the credential of a person, what the person drive, where the person stay. If God didn't touch their hearts for that ministry, they cannot be the leaders in that ministry. Number 3, appointing leaders as a means of keeping them in the church, not because they can add value. Marawo, if we don't make him a pastor, the way Arata Morera, we should not appoint you a leader because we are scared we leave. From the start, you were not part of us. Especially when the church is small, we are too disparate. We don't want to lose any person. But brethren, if the perfect pastor, God, lost Satan and the angels, you will lose the people. If the perfect pastor, Jesus, lost Judas, you will lose the people. You have a question? Yes. Microphone.
Batho ba mphe ba fitla ka kerekeng re ba fe opportunity to serve. So re ska ra ke ra re ba beile re re he a emele kgwedi or eng eng. So question ya ka go reng if motho o mompia a fitle ka kerekeng a nya go serve ibile a bolela gore ke bona o ka I will be good on this.
Give example. What is that? This?
Example, okay. Maybe a reng ke feel o ka reng ke kwa o ka reng ke tla ba good on ushering. Or maybe a re ke bona o ka re ka mo kerekeng a ona motho wa le ishetsang Bible ko pulpit. And then even nna ke le ishetsang Bible ko pulpit.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that question. I think it's very important. We need to be able to differentiate between altar ministries and non-altar ministries. Altar ministries are anything that comes here. They've got access to breathe to the rest of the church. Then you have got those ministries where a person wants to be involved in holding the camera. We can allow you to hold the camera, but we can't allow you to be an associate pastor. You can come in 1 month in the church and you can be involved in the parking of the cars, but you won't be involved in being a head of evangelism software. But to greet the people there, you can greet the people. So we need to be able to differentiate between the altar ministries. That takes time to prepare and build a person to be in there. You see, to build a pastor, you need a minimum of 2 years in attending every service to build one pastor. But to build a parking marshal, we can take a person who is not there and say, this is how you park the cars. So, when we say when people come, do not block them. Allow them to get into departments and serve. That service, these departments are different. There are departments where when you get into those departments, you need to be inducted first. You need to be taught what we're doing here. It's like a person who doesn't know how to sing and say, I feel I want to be in this sing. I feel I want to be in this sing. So if you are scared of losing that person, and one pastor, Bishop Kimani, said there was a Korean guy who peleta the song. Hebar re ya mo le re ya mo le bo ha. So how they solved it, they said they created a monitor for him and gave him a microphone to sing, but he sing only on this speaker that is facing him. The rest of the church doesn't hear him. So they solved him. So he sings, but only in this speaker that he hears himself. So as Apeleta the song, and I quite powerful in this speaker, what dance? Then the people see him dancing, they dance. And then that's how they won the population of Japanese. So appoint leaders without induction into leadership program is very dangerous. Getting people to be leaders without knowing who we are and what are we doing. That is why these trainings are important. Appointing leaders, you do not have capacity to rebuke, correct, or discipline. Never appoint leaders that are above your level of authority. If you can't correct them, if you can't rebuke, discipline them, then you should never appoint them as leaders. Because they will do as they please, and you will have no capacity to tell them anything.
So if they behave for 7 years, then after they change,
You are their pastor, you must be able to rebuke them. Whether they change after 20 years, but if you are afraid of them, the problem here is when a pastor is afraid of a person.
no, not necessarily you are afraid. Should do umukube mutuna.
No, to rebuke and to correct asokuba.
No, kerore umu rebuke, ibilo umu correct.
Yes.
But as a sally corrected or rebuked.
Your duty is to correct and force discipline. How they receive it is up to them. You did your part. If after that rebuke they decide to leave, the doors are open. Children that God sent for that will receive rebuke with love.
Yeah, that's true.
Because God rebukes those that he loves. The pastor rebukes the people he loves. But what I'm saying is that you should not be afraid to say, ke Mama Shal. What am I going to say to her? So you find you have to hold 6 meetings within yourself before you talk to a person you have appointed as a leader. Then there is a problem in there. Appointing leaders solely because they are leaders in the corporate space. I spoke about it. Because you are a supervisor there doesn't mean here you can translate into a supervisor. But however, if you are willing to go through our induction program, we can appoint you. Because you are like all other people that went through everything. So church workers is where I am. This thing is very important in expanding and growing the church, and people don't understand. Serving without understanding the vision and the culture of the church is just a delay by itself. You ought to have a platform somewhere where the culture of the church can be taught and imparted, where the vision can be clarified. Serving in church A, but using systems of church B. Why? Because you jumped step number 1, induction program. You come from Baptist, you joined AFM. You want to do things according to how Baptist does things in AFM. Then there will be conflict. The next step is conflict. Because you need to understand how do we do the things where we are. Number 3, formation of groups is a delay of church growth. Where people, groups are not teams. Groups are used in a more negative connotation, whereby at church, it's only you and you and you that talk to each other. Nobody can penetrate that cycle. So your fellowship is exclusive. Nobody else can come into that one. Because what we talk, nobody should actually be able to do. So in every church, there are people who don't like the pastor, they form a group. There are people who don't love our music, they form a group. There are people that don't love how we run the service, they form a group. So kind of gossip groups. So those things delay. So the pastor that is not willing, let's give him a mic. The pastor that is not willing to solve conflicts, unresolved conflicts in the church. Let's give him a mic.
Greetings, Apostle.
Yes, sir.
So I just have a question. What causes the formulation of groups in churches? Is it the nature of the church and how to break them whilst they are existing in churches? Is it something that we could avoid from the incept of the church? I don't know if it's possible to have a church a highlight.
They will remember people come to church not healthy. We are trying to make them healthy, but they come not healthy. Pella, people don't learn gossip in the church. They come gossipers. People don't learn betrayal. I mean, somebody took them to school from first year to university in the name of they love each other. When they qualified, they dumped the person. If they do that there, and when they come to church, they are still the same person. So you need to understand, in the church, you are not dealing with perfect people. So there will be areas of imperfection. But if number 1, the first statement is in place, the people are taught how our church run, how we do things, what is the culture of our church, then you will know when you start to gossip, the mirror will show you. Say, no, this is not what happens here. This is not what happens here. So we need to, all people are inducted and taught. You see, we're going to give you a chance now. We fail a lot as what we call the true churches on building the culture of kingdom service in the people. What we call the false churches, they do far much better than what we call the true churches in terms of building the culture into the people. I gave an example about the pastor of Showground. When he goes to court, the Metro Police need to block everywhere. If you go to church, it will be you and your son, and maybe Stolo Salin. Why? It's because there is no culture built in our churches. You know, we kind of believe a person will walk in by the Spirit of God, they will become something. But we don't have a platform where people are taught what is the culture. And to solve that, we need to be active in teaching the people as they come in. Let us give them induction. As you join us, who are we? How do we do things? But those people, I mean, I was talking to a gentleman who has got a PhD in clinical psychology, educational psychology. That church in Showground, they caused him to resign as a university of how to serve at showground by a peer educational psychologist who specialize in training. They call them to come in. And so these people go to class 8 hours twice every week. That's why when those people come here, they are very useful in the church. The people that are redeemed out of there, when they come to local churches, they are very useful. Why? They are trained. But the people that we produce cannot be at that level. We don't do trainings. I mean, you can be mzalwane, wabaptiziwa, waseva, wababa mruti. Isn't nothing. In our churches, it is possible. You can be born again, and you just see people praying. And if in your church people pray moving like this, and suddenly you move like this, you don't know why people are moving. You suddenly also start to move like, you just look at people, what they do, you do what they are doing, and tomorrow you are a pastor. Like that Apostle Lamola I attended the other day. The young pastor is reading the Bible for the older pastor who is preaching. And Lamola latafo. Bare murutu aka tlhogo ya taba ere bana baja kobo. O nyaka gore bana baja kobo. Murutu ola wa sebaka. Ore monghadi itshwarana mo. Ke nyaka o tseba hore na lena ma 2000 le ka ija kobo ena. Ke kobo ye bo Elia ba ijile. Nale ka ija kobo. Then why not the culture or idiom? Iya to the next generation. Le bona he bo rera ko moletelong. Bo bolela ka bana ba o ja kobo. Sentinaning the reader was not fluent and eloquent in reading. And the reader, what did he say? He said, because we don't have trainings. So that's a problem. I cry for the church to really take the issue of training people very serious. Yes. Where's that mic? The mic there? Yes.
Katabaya induction. Let me say, some of us, retomile jwale ho sena induction in the church. You just tell the church the vision, the primary purpose, the mission. Of you never maybe teach them. So how are you deal with those kind of
like for example, here Mohai, we do a service every Sunday morning. We're going to start Kadi 26 definitely, of meeting all workers that are involved in the church, and I do the teaching every Sunday. Number 2, a meeting like this is an exclusive meeting that which we call to train and empower the people. So it's a burden of you as the senior pastor to say, do you have time to call the people to come and sit down and be taught? And if we do not teach the people, then we will have a problem. So we need to find a space where we're teaching the people. And we need to create it. We are from fasting. We finished our fasting yesterday. I called the training. The first day after fasting, I called the training. And next week, I will meet the head of departments for training, because I need to install the culture of impact. This is our year of impact. So trainings is just that sometimes it's because of time. But I need to squeeze time to make trainings. You can only be sure of the outcome if you have trained the people. And I beg every pastor leading the church, please. Mfundi is welcome also. You can't leave it to chance. You ought to train the people. If you don't have material, ask. We will give you material and you train the people. The people must be trained. Sometimes you don't even need to make a slide like this. You just need to know, I want to teach the people about supporting the vision, and the people must be taught. So let's have trainings. In a year, you must have met, what I'm going to do here this year, I will try to meet with the leaders every month for training every month. If you go to the corporate, they meet every week. You will see when we start the real presentation, I will show you how the church runs in Africa. And you will realize we are still too behind. So lack of commitment and sacrifice delay church growth. And all these things are from a pastor. So as a pastor and as a leader, please, you must be very committed. So failure of church workers to sell their church to new people in the community. You see, beside us doing crusade, our very own people must be able to go to the people and tell the people, come this side in front. So our people in the church must be told, go in the community and tell the people about your church. If now we don't promote our church as the workers in the church, our church will not grow. You know, it is more powerful for a person in the church to say, I was helped in that church. Come, you too will be helped. It is more powerful than evangelism. When a person say, how do people get to ZCC? You seen anywhere. ZCC doesn't do crusade. You will never find the big Arab ZCC evangelize. How do they win? Moholo, oboja colleague, arbekeliso, kaya kwa papa. Heki fita, wampona leanuwa leta laka le natile wak, ke kereke ya siyo, kereke kholo ya siyo. Dilo chabo na di bereka, ibile ona le metsi ala mongeba ka o fa ona o tlhapa, wampona le mo mmerekong ya promoting. Mara rena batho ba rena, they are not taught how to sell what we have in the church. Marabu Muhulu, without a crusade, they are number one numerically in South Africa. Nothing beats word of mouth and testimony of the people of the church. You can't tell me you are not benefiting anything. I think I jumped quite a lot. So I'm talking about things that delay church growth. One, when our services lack a touch of excellence, it's just disorder. That thing is a big delay. Somebody needs to observe, okay, I want things to be the banaba kitima mobile. Dilo cha ona di in order. I want a presentation. Speaker ke se se white, keyboard ke blue, stilo se se lengwale se se wane, ke se se ntsho, mola ke se se red, kwa ke se se white. O ka re go creche. To pay attention to excellence and detail. There need to be contrast. Like when I wapar, o ka se di eta di yellow, wapara le borgo bo